Welcome to the Cabinet meeting on Tuesday, 10th of July at 4 p.m. in Huddersfield Town Hall. Membership of the committee, we've got apologies from Councillor Turner and Councillor David Sheard, who have gone to a funeral, so their apologies. Councillor Cathy Scott, she's actually on a training course, and again, I've known about it. And Councillor Erin Hill is on maternity leave. Item number 2, minutes of previous meeting. Are they current record, Cabinet members? Thank you. Any interests from councillors? No, thank you. Admission of the public. We've got some members of the public and we've got them down. If they want to... Yeah. Okay. Any deputations, petitions? Right, okay, I've got that on my agenda. Item 6, public question time. Is there any? Or shall we take them on the agenda items? Okay. Member question time. I'm assuming that we'll take them on the. Oh, you got a general question, Martin? Over to you.
Thank you. It's nothing that's on the agenda today, so that's why it's appropriate this time. Fields in Trust is a national arrangement whereby playing fields, sports grounds and others are given protected status. It was founded in 1925 by King George V and operates at several times. It's now been taken over with the aim of providing centenary memorial fields, giving a protected status to fields and others in memory of the armistice. In Kirklees, there are currently 6 historic fields in trust. King George V at Hightown, which Councillor Kendrick, I'm sure, will know. Huddersfield YMCA, a private sports ground at Celandine Nook. Lepton, Taylor Street, Batty in Batley, Chairman. Cliff Wreck at Holmfirth, and probably the best out of the lot is at Battyford playing fields in Murfield. The reason I raise this is to see if Cabinet has got a policy on future application and dedication to protect playing fields, memorial grounds and others by registering them as a field in trust and thereby being able to draw down grants and other things to support them. Obviously, given the changing council finance structures, if external funding is available through the Fields in Trust mechanism, it would be obviously advantageous to communities if we could dedicate them.
Thank you, Martin. That's quite useful information. Do any of my learned colleagues know if there's any policy or any structure? What we'll do, Martin, is we'll take it back, right? Yeah, and I think your suggestion made, right? Yeah, if there isn't anything, if there's no policy, we need to actually get some structure in place, because if there's an opportunity to safeguard these assets, community assets, playing fields, and at the same time, if you can draw down any funds and do something beyond what we do as a council, we need to welcome that. So we'll definitely look into that, Martin. Yep.
Thank you. And in doing so, could I ask then that you look hopefully favourably on Murfield Memorial Ground, Huddersfield Road, Murfield. This was a site which was raised by public subscription, as the name implies, as a memorial to those who lost their lives in the First World War. It would therefore fit entirely with the centenary fields. And for 2 years, ward members and the parish council have been trying to get officers to progress this. I've got emails going back to September 2016 when the tranche was released. Officers appear to be reluctant because there are sports clubs playing on a sports ground. From the examples I gave you where there are currently registered fields in trust, such as the YMCA at Celandine Nook, which is not a council ground but is registered, then I would hope that such a strange reason of you can't apply for protection for a sports ground because there's a cricket club, a tennis club and now a pétanque club on there, I would hope members would take a more sympathetic view.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I'll get officers to look into that, and I'll personally have a look at what's happening. Okay. Item 8, Headlands Junior and Infant Nursery School, permission to consult Councillor Masood Ahmed. Your report.
Thank you, Chair. The report requests a non-statutory consultation to decommission the 6 specialist provision at Edland School. There has been a growth in the number of children with complex communication and interaction needs, and the new provision at Windmill School has 12 places. Our data shows us that primary level, the greater demand is for outreach, and this function has been increased to meet that need. There is less demand for specialist places at primary level, and Windmill is sufficient to meet this demand currently. However, officers are monitoring the demand closely in order to determine any change of need in the future. There are only 2 children currently at Edlands who would be affected by this, and discussions have taken place with their families to ensure continuity of provision for them. Any affected staff would be offered other roles within the specialist team. Therefore, I propose that we agree this request for non-statutory consultation, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Sorry, Viv, do you want to second that? I thought it was the report. Thank you, members. Are we okay with approving that? Thank you. Item number 9, Masood, it's your report again. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. That's over there. That's good. Thank you, Chair. To update members on the work being carried out in relation to mainstream home-to-school transport following Cabinet's decision in January, and makes recommendations for additional time to work with our schools and pupils in finalising a new policy. We considered the issue in January. Parents and schools have contacted us to tell us about the impact any change in eligibility criteria would have on their circumstances and their families. Many people, including schools, have told us that they understand the need for us to cut waste out of the existing system, and that includes waste as a result of us paying for free bus passes for children who do not use them all week. We are keen to move to a fair system which reflects our need for it to be efficient and not wasteful, but at the same time we are mindful of the impact this may have on families and how they may have choices about preferred schools. We think taking some time to work with those schools most affected by the policy change will ultimately help us bring forward a new policy which will well thought through and above all fair, right level of engagement, good decision making. This means there will be no changes to existing entitlement for those parents making a school selection this September for starts in September 2019. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We've got a few questions. I'll take them as I've got them on here. Mr. Haig, David Haig, do you want to say something?
Yes, David Haig, Town Mayor of Meltham. Could I thank officers in the Cabinet for now recognising the concerns felt by many Meltham residents since the original policy was introduced in the new year, as it particularly affects the parents of secondary age or forthcoming secondary age pupils in our township. Can we be assured in terms of future communication that the deliberations around the pilots and other discussions will be regularly fed back to all parties? For example, the parents, the primary and secondary school governing bodies, head teachers, established parish and town councils, and there are quite a number of campaign groups around the issue as well. This will help mitigate the stressful few months that many parents have had worrying about matters around home-to-school transport, matters interlinked to the Kirklees decision. There have been meetings at the town council in Meltham and at school venues where parents have voiced genuine fears and concerns, especially about the then projected Honley High School pyramid arrangements. Parents have expressed worries about the effect on already tight household budgets brought about by the changes, and a worry and a dilemma that in order to get a 3 pass, they might have to send their children to a school not of their first choice. We hope such worries will be fully evaluated together with a due detailed consideration of safe walking or cycle routes to Honley, Combe Valley or Holmfirth High Schools. Thank you.
Okay, do you want to respond, Masood?
Thank you, Mr. Regg. Like I've just mentioned, there will be the right level of engagement with parents, schools, and any groups that obviously have raised concerns. We'll be working with. We'll also be working with the heads within the pyramid schools as well to make sure that we get a fair and right system, like I've just highlighted. And like I've also said, no school will be affected until 2019. This is why we've come back to, sorry, I beg your pardon, 2020. And this is why we've come back to make sure that we get it right. This is why we want to be working with the relevant people.
Okay, Councillor Lyons?
No question. Councillor Greaves is going to.
Okay. Charles, over to you.
Hello, thanks. A further one-year delay to the implementation of the policy is welcome, but not entirely unexpected due to the complexity of the issues. This policy has a major impact upon a part of our ward, Meltham, and it's going to have a real big impact upon Meltham parents and the decisions they make in the future as to which schools their children attend. There are other proposals within the general policy that are sensible, and we're happy to support those. Paying for bus passes where they're not being used is a waste of money. But the issue that we have with the general policy is the move to measure eligibility to the nearest school, and it has a perverse impact on parents in Meltham, in that Meltham is the biggest town after Huddersfield in South Kirklees. Just by fate of history, it doesn't have its own high school because it's surrounded by high schools. So there's Combe Valley High School, but Blackmoor Foot, there's Honley High School, and there's Holmfirth High School. There's others not too far away as well. It feels like we've gone from one end of the scale to the other, whereas in previous years, Meltham parents could get passes to almost any school. The impact of this policy will now mean for the vast majority of Meltham parents, they'll only get a pass if their child attends the school that actually isn't their primary admission school. This policy means that for Meltham parents, their nearest school is Combe Valley High School. The pyramid arrangements, Meltham and Honley pyramid, feeds through to Honley High School, and that is where the vast majority of children currently go. So if you want your child to go to the primary admission school for your junior school, that's Honley. If you send them there, you will not get a bus pass. If you send them to Combe Valley, and you're more than 3 miles away, you will. Actually, it seems that the 3-mile limit is not really important because there is no safe routes from Meltham to any of the high schools. But that's a different issue. We find it a perverse logic that we send children to one school and then measure their entitlement to a different school. And there are some risks with this. I can only assume that people are thinking that Meltham parents can absorb the whole of this cost and won't change the direction in which they send their children. But think on it, Terry's a good example. If this policy had been around when his kids were at school, he'd have 3 passes to pay for. And what we're talking about is £380 a pass. So Terry would have to find £1,100 a year to send his kids to Honley High School. I think, unless you're a high earner, you'd probably be looking at sending your kid to the school where you could get free transport. There's a danger that this policy is going to undermine the Honley Meltham Schools pyramid. It's a great concern to us and to the schools. There's also an issue for Honley. If there is a Honley High School, if there's a big shift in parents to Combe Valley, that's going to have a big impact upon their budget. The only way Honley could deal with that is by laying teaching staff off. It's not like they can reduce their operating costs. The policy does protect low earners, but it's working families that this has a big impact on. Okay, and I would ask Cabinet to just reflect on this aspect of the policy and consider whether it is truly fair. I appreciate that the move to nearest school fits in with current legislation, although I understand that legislation itself is under review. The additional savings from this policy are effectively a cost passed directly on to Meltham parents, and not unsubstantial cost, but it's one that the council can bear. It's one that the council expects Meltham and Honley parents to fund for other parents in the borough. It's just that our parents are the ones who will lose out because the reference point is Combe Valley, yet their high school is Honley. If anybody wants any more information about this, I'm happy to talk to them afterwards. But I would request that Cabinet look at altering that specific aspect of the policy. It has a perverse impact upon Meltham, it's unfair, and it's one I think that if Cabinet are keen to see through, I think they should actually come out and meet Meltham parents face to face to explain why it's happening. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Greaves. Quite a lengthy discussion there. I take on board all your points that you've raised. I mean, like I said from the offset, I mean, we are trying to have a fair system and obviously want to engage with as many people as we can. And I've made that quite clear to yourselves as well as other groups and people that have obviously emailed myself as well as officers. There are certain things that have already been looked at in terms of the Meltham pyramid as well, the Honley pyramid and the schools and the geographical element. And obviously I'm not from South Kirklees, but I've visited Honley, Meltham, and I've gone around to look at the schools such as King James and Almondbury and all other schools that are affected by that. And I appreciate what you are saying. But obviously at the moment, like I said, these were recommendations that we go back and we look at some of the things that have come out from the discussions that we've had with the heads, with the parents and those, and we'll take that on board and we'll see what comes out of those discussions.
Martin, got a question?
Thank you, Chairman. And a certain element of déjà vu, as I was here on the 23rd of January when this came up, and sadly a lot of the concerns still exist. If we look at the Cabinet report in para 1.4 about the decisions, bullet point 3 delegated responsibility to investigate the feasibility of setting up a cycling scheme, one of the key components of this. Yet the feasibility, which would have analysed the pros, cons, SWOT analysis and everything of removing this, is nowhere to be seen. So how can Cabinet, parents and ward members assess the viability and indeed, as it said there, the feasibility of providing a bicycle helmet, cycle safety training in lieu of this, when that feasibility is there? In 3.1, it says, since the decision was taken by Council to bring back a new policy, and in undertaking the work described in section 2 above. But again, that paragraph is not evidenced by any appendices showing any of that work done. So we don't know the viability of this. What we see in para 3.2 is a statement that initial conversations have taken place with school leader representatives in the Honley Pyramid, who have indicated their willingness to work with the Council as part of a pilot. And in that, Chair, I think we need some clarity, because a letter sent to all ward members on the 2nd of July stated categorically that the Cabinet recommends that the Council accepts the offer made to us by Honley High School, whose pupils are likely to be significantly affected. There is a difference between having a conversation and an indication of willingness to work and an offer to be a pilot. And again, that would have come through in the feasibility, that if somebody had, because if you're going to be a pilot, I would expect any reasonable organisation to have wanted to know exactly what you were getting themselves in for. Because we ascertained in January that from the projected savings, which were in the January report, divided by the 371 pupils likely to be affected, it equated to £300 per pupil saving. What we need and what the feasibility and financial information would have shown, that in order to make that savings, Cabinet would be able to have made a financial assessment about the potential success of buying a suitable bike, a suitable helmet, safety training, equipment, and things for training pupils. Because talking to council officers and people involved in cycle safety training in Kirklees, and again, as I mentioned in January, there are 3 levels of national standards cycle training. The word for this now is bikeability. There are 3 levels, and if you are sending someone who's going out onto the road, level 3 equips trainees with skills for more challenging roads, traffic situations, busier streets, queuing traffic, etc. Which is great, but we don't give level 3 training in Kirklees. If a pupil misses the standard course that they're currently getting in Year 6, according to information I am given by professionals who deliver it, if a pupil misses the course in Year 6, they're unlikely to access the future. The costs, where I am told that level 3 is less attractive as the ratios are smaller and funding is still £40 a head. They are paying £85 to £90 a day to trainers. Is there capacity for more training to be delivered in Kirklees? According to Kirklees, we don't have any in-house capacity to carry out cycle training, so therefore it's got to be done outside. So again, where's the feasibility which would allow us to do that? In order to ascertain the viability for the Honley schools, which is this willing pilot we are told, can the Cabinet confirm that there are secure cycle storage places in these and in the pyramid? Otherwise, you risk further capital and revenue having to put those in place or replace bikes. What is the provision if the family, having been given a bike, if the family can't afford regular safety maintenance? And also, last time we were told that the savings would be based on the cycle being a one-off purchase, whereas the bus passes were year on year. Well, I'm sure all of us who are parents or know families know that during a period of secondary education, children grow at an alarming rate. So the child who starts at secondary school may need a bike changing at least once. So that's a further expense. Where is the response rate from parents? I know from having worked in the cycle sector that where it's great, you take a cohort into a primary school, teach them cycle safety training within the confines of a safe environment, the child turns around to the parents and says, "Can I ride to school?" The immediate knee-jerk reaction from a parent is, "No, it's too dangerous because of all the scars outside." So where is the response rate from parents? Where are the plans to put in safe routes to school at these pilots? You have to put in some engineering or some other training. Turning now, I mean, it would be quite easy, as I said after the last meeting, I was willing to offer to work with Councillor Massoud and others. So it would have been quite easy to have made this into a political issue, to let the Cabinet make a decision and then come back and criticise. But if you look at the Cabinet recommendation that Councillor Ahmed is in support of undertaking further work to ensure that there was time to fully explore the impact of the new policy, supportive and welcome the opportunity of the Council working with schools. That recommendation does not commit the Council or Cabinet to implement any change. It doesn't say that we will implement a change from a set time, set period or with a trigger. And if you are intending making that change, Councillor Ahmed, then I would suggest for it to be legally binding, you need to change your recommendation, which doesn't do that at the moment. Otherwise, what we see and what I would prefer is that the meaning of that undertake further work, let's have a look at it, let's explore all the outstanding concerns that both I have and I'm sure parents in this Honley Pyramid and certainly the local members have, so that if Kirklees is going to have a pilot project, we have one which is not only successful and it hopefully will save money, but becomes a national exemplar for doing this, and we can achieve things like a permanent modal change, teaching people, and it will improve air quality. At the moment, I have great concerns that what we're doing here is we're going to take away the bus passes, and retrospective payments are mentioned elsewhere which need addressing, but we're not going to be giving the young people the opportunity, the safety and the facility and the training to replace that. So you're not going to get the children cycling.
Thank you, Martin. Before I bring Masood in, I think there was a lot of technical stuff around cycles. I've learned more about cycles today than I've learned in my 53 years of... So there's always a danger of having an expert in the room, right? Yeah, knows a lot about cycles, which is quite good. But what I'll do before I bring you in, Masood, right? Yeah, do officers want to sort of just come in because there's a lot of technical stuff, and I'm sure that there was quite a lot of questions there. There were quite a lot of questions there. I'll bring the officers in, Masood, first, and then I'll bring you in. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Bolt is quite right. There is a lot of work to do in order to be able to deliver a bike scheme. One of the things that the report has asked for, and we've asked parents to do, is to express an interest. It has to be a parental decision to think about whether or not their child wishes to travel to school on a bike. And once we gather that piece of information, we'll work going forward around what that means for us, what systems and processes and training we need to put in place to support the young person to be able to travel to school and from school safely, and whether or not for that particular child's journey there is in fact a safe route to school for that child's particular age group. So at this moment in time, the pilot encompasses us picking up a significant amount of information around willingness amongst parents, how we would technically deliver that, and obviously around the individual support that we would need in order to make that going forward. For us, the aspect of putting the bike scheme into this report for Cabinet was around us improving healthy lifestyles and the carbon impact, as well as us supporting the independent travel agenda. We do have had some small instances where we have supported some children, particularly children in the SEND arena, to be able to access school on a bike in the last year or so, and so we're wanting to build on that particular scheme.
John, do you want to add anything?
I think the only thing to say generally is, I mean, in terms of next steps, it is about gathering that information. That's what will supply the valuable data. I think it is that opportunity to take into account the views that have been expressed and work proactively so that we fully understand the impact of implementing the policy.
Thank you. Masood, over to you.
I mean, I take on board, Martin, exactly what you've said. I mean, we've had this discussion at the January meeting when you were here and you talked about bikeability and the levels of bikes 1, 2 and 3. So, I mean, that information has been passed on to the officers as well, and you mentioned about the storage of the vehicle, storage of the cycle and the maintenance and what would happen in one-off bikes. And so all those things are still obviously being looked at, and obviously detail needs to come back. So obviously that engagement will take place with the parents and those families that wish to take. And you mentioned also about the safe routes of the bikes and all that. Again, that needs to be looked at as well, because what we don't want is a child going on his own. He or she would need an adult or somebody to go with them as well. So there's a lot of detailed stuff, and you're right, and that is something that is why this report has come back, and that's the whole purpose of that, really.
Thank you, Mr. Obviously, it's like you would reiterated, is very, very complex. So based on that, can we agree the recommendations and we move forward? I support Masood's recommendations. Are we all in favour? Right, thank you, members. Item 10, Kirklees Council Adult Social Care Offer Consultation. Councillor Viv Kendrick. Thank you. I second that report. We've got Councillor Lawson first. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the brief there, Councillor Kendrick. That was very useful. Coming to Council tomorrow, we have our new corporate plan, and in that corporate plan, it states one of the golden rules that we have is back to basics, back to a golden rule, which is we do things with people, not to them. When I saw this, it looked like we'd done the first stage of doing something to somebody. You know, this was just the fact finding, and that's what you've outlined, is that this is the fact finding. Is that better? Right. Okay. Okay. I'm probably facing you and not the microphone. What I'd just like to sort of pick through is that we have two particular groups here that seem to be, the feeling seems to be in this consultation that, oh well, they would say that, wouldn't they? And the particular groups that we're taking are in the summary, which are the adult social care support, the people in receipt of adult social care support, including carers, talking about living independently and living well, and the same group in the section deciding the amount of money and support. We move further down the report and we have contacting the council and adult services, and this has been kind of an ongoing issue about how the elderly or older respondents are likely to engage with us in that level. And it says here, older respondents are less likely to agree with the question that was asked. So, for example, and it goes on to give examples with numbers. Now, I think you've outlined some of the corporate events that we're going to do there, but could you get sort of a little bit more detail and talk to us just how you're going to take the key issues for consideration in here and turn that into doing with rather than doing to? And I think that's, I'll stop there. Thank you. Sorry, we're on page 2 of the report of the executive summary, 2 through to 4. Those are the particular pages I'm talking about.
So pages 24 and 25?
34 to 36, I've got.
Thank you, Councillor Smage.
Thank you. Yes, this is coming to scrutiny next week, but I've just a couple of questions here today, please. On page 34 of the papers, which is part of the consultation report, there are lists of the events and focus groups, etc., that have been held. Some of them have been well attended. For instance, 55 stakeholders across Kirklees attended one. But the visits, there seems to have been just 16 service users involved in those visits. And when you look at the bottom, then
the geographical areas that have been covered is not fully across Kirklees. And I'm just wondering if you feel that that has been adequate coverage for the consultation to have happened. But also want to pick up on the respondents who are in receipt of social care at this moment, feeling that it will have a negative impact on them, which comes through quite strongly in the report. And I just wonder how Cabinet is going to ensure that there's ongoing dialogue with the service users and carers, because we have a space of time between the report on the consultation and any new ways of working coming forward. And how are you going to have that dialogue with people in that period of time, so that the concerns do not escalate?
Thank you. I've normally got a loud enough voice for this chamber, but I know it's webcast as such. I think the geography issue perhaps needs looking at, but I am well aware groups like PCAN and some of the autism family groups come from a wide geographical spread. So you couldn't argue that one part of Kirklees has been looked at as not another. And some of the focus groups have been people from different areas, as were some of the telephone surveys. There would always be concerns at any point when a service or the council is looking to change a policy, develop a new procedure. There are concerns. I do think it is for the portfolio holder and for scrutiny to hold officers to account as to how clear they are about addressing those concerns. And I'm absolutely sure that the service will attempt to allay concerns. Having said that, at the point of anything changing, there will always be someone who won't like it. People don't like change. I don't particularly. But sometimes in hindsight, I recognise the benefit of change. I will raise the points that you've made with Councillor Scott. I'm sure you will be reiterating them again at scrutiny. And I'll warn her about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for those who are watching, I think I've just had a quick look at what we have done, and obviously we need to do more, and I'll quickly go through the list. There was an 8-week period between March and May where we undertook a detailed consultation. Letters were sent out to all direct payment recipients. Phones, email addresses were available. Consultation included online consultation. The list goes on, just bear with me. Telephone surveys, 2 staff workshops, stakeholder workshops in John Smith Stadium. Visits were made to people who actually are receiving a service and their carers and service providers. Focus groups, carers events, one in Dewsbury, where a lot of carers attended. Drop-in sessions in May, and there were council member briefings on the 16th and 17th of May. So obviously we need to do more. What I would ask everyone to do is to actually engage where they can, because we welcome people coming to the cabinet meeting, but there's still a lot of work to do. I'd welcome more engagement from everyone. Thanks. I'll support that. Are we all agreed to the recommendations? Absolutely. Sorry, it's just a noting, right? Yeah, because it's just. Yeah. So are we agreeing? Are we agreeing to note, because there's still a lot of work to do? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for attending, and the meeting is closed. Thank you very much.